بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Is often brought up is this issue of la'an. And Shia ulama have tried to explain a lot of times the difference between sab and shatm and la'an, and saying that cursing, insulting, mocking, jeering, deriding, this is sab, shatm, this is not la'an. And that la'an is simply a prayer, it is a dua that you make, asking Allah to remove you and distance you from certain individuals and to remove His mercy from certain individuals. Now, there is a common idea that why should we do la'an as Muslims? It is negative. And in fact, every Muharram we have a sheikh who comes here from one of the mosques that is frequented by the Sunni brothers, and he comes here usually in the 8th, 9th of Muharram, and he talks about Muslim unity, and mashallah, he's blessed with a beautiful voice, and he recites some na'at. And if you have heard him over the years, he has this message in every year he comes to say, let us focus on reciting salawat and blessings on the Prophet, let us not focus on cursing and doing la'an. Now, if by cursing he means mocking, jeering, deriding, creating, inciting hatred amongst Muslims, then 100% we agree with him. But if by that we mean not invoking Allah to remove His mercy from certain individuals who are responsible for the plight of Muslims today, or not distancing ourselves from certain individuals, then we respectfully disagree. Why? And there are people who write online as well. If you look at some of the lectures by the Shi'a on YouTube and so on, they'll put a comment down. They'll say, very nice lecture, but a Muslim should never do la'an. And the reason they say that is because when we start our lectures, after we send blessings, we glorify Allah, we send blessings on the Prophet, we send blessings on the Ahlul Bayt, and then we says, وَلَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَىٰ أَعْدَائِهِمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. And that they find objectionable. Now, in the Quran, Allah does la'an in many places. La'natullahi on the, dhalimeen and so on and so forth. In hadith, we have many places where the Prophet ﷺ has said la'an on individuals and said la'an on these or la'an on those. They are not saying this in the sense of cursing and slander, but in the sense of that prayer. I have one question to ask. If we say that there is no need to do la'an because Allah already knows who deserves to go to heaven and who deserves to go to hell, and if an individual is deserving of Allah's wrath, then Allah will deal with him on the Day of Judgment. Why do we need to, in a sense, add fuel to the fire? Right? Why do la'an when Allah can handle it? My answer to that question is, if that is the case, then why do salawat either? Allah commands us in the Quran, as we saw last night, that Allah and His angels send salawat on the Prophet. O you who believe, sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, doesn't Allah know that He needs to bless His Prophet? Can Allah not bless His Prophet so abundantly that the Prophet should not need our blessings? Is the Prophet muhtaj of our salawat? But why do the Muslims insist that every time they mention the name of the Prophet, they say sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Why? Why is Allah insisting we do that when our salawat does not add or elevate the status of the Prophet? The reason is because that salawat is not for the Prophet, it is for us. It asserts and crystallizes our faith. It tells us where we stand. It re-emphasizes my tawalla. In that same manner, when I recite a dua that is a la'an, it is also solidifying and crystallizing my faith and saying, these are my friends and these are not my friends. And there are numerous incidents that unfortunately I can't get into right now, where individuals had very strong faith and they knew who the right and the pious were, but they didn't know who the unrighteous were. So when the time for test came, they wavered. Like in the Battle of Jamal, where individuals, Muslims, pious, Sahaba of the Prophet came to Amir al-Mu'mineen and said, "Oh Ali, this is the first civil war between Muslims. If you think I'm going to come with you to battle and kill my fellow Muslim brothers, you're mistaken." And what did Ali say to them? He said, "You have seen right and recognized it, but you have not seen wrong and recognized it." So tabarra has its role as well. It's not about slandering or pushing fists in the air. but it is important. I want to conclude by saying that the issue that the Shia have with this whole issue of Sahabiyat is that the Muslims have taken a very literal approach to say, as long as you said La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, you are Muslim. As long as you saw the Prophet even once, you are Sahaba. The Shia's attitude is, we must not take things completely at face value. We must be able to also judge a person by his actions and his past. You can summarize this difference between the Sunni attitude and the Shia attitude in the personalities of Abu Sufyan and Abu Talib. The Sunni Muslims say Abu Talib was not a Muslim. Why? Because he never recited Kalima Shahada until he died. Abu Sufyan is Muslim, is Sahaba. Why? Because he recited Kalima. The Shia say, look at the circumstances for both of them. Abu Talib protected the Prophet since childhood. The Quraysh did not touch the Prophet as long as Abu Talib was alive. Abu Talib recited the Aqdun Nikah of the Prophet ﷺ. Abu Talib opened his valley, Shaib Abu Talib, to protect the family of the Prophet. Abu Talib used to switch where his sons sleep, Ali and Jaffer and Aqil, to protect the Prophet ﷺ. Him you call a kafir. Abu Sufyan was the arch enemy of the Prophet until the Prophet showed up at Mecca, and then also he referred to him as a king. And he surrendered Mecca and recited Kalima to save his life. Him you call a Muslim. That is where we have a problem. That is where we are saying things cannot be so literal. If we are going to talk about right and wrong, orthodox Islam, the idea of justice has to be there. We have to talk about justice and not base it on simply how I was raised and who I'm opposed to. And the Quran says this, وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ أَنْ لَا تَعْدِلُوا اِعْدِلُوا هُوَ أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَى. O you who have faith, do not let your hatred for a community make you such that you stop being just. Be just. That is closer to taqwa.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد